Hi, Khailee. Thanks a lot for coming to Tech in Asia conference. So, the Group Small and Sales.com story is basically like, it's a very old story, but the reason why we basically bring it up again, mainly because I think there's a lot of lessons learned and a lot of like pitfalls like mistakes that he did, and hopefully today we can basically like dig it up so that we all can learn as entrepreneurs. So, Khailee, maybe just like quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, I guess like this, I told him earlier, I was like, hey dude, this is like a really old story, man, why don't you bring it up again? I guess in my new life, I'm a managing partner at 500 Startups. We're the world's most active seed stage firm. We've done 1,000 companies in 50 countries in the past 5 years. In Southeast Asia, I run their South 500 Durians Fund. We've done 50 companies in the past 1.5 years, including my friends over there at Grab Taxi, iMoney, Carousel, and a couple of others. So we're quite fortunate, but I guess in a past life, which is what he wants to talk about, you know, I used to be an entrepreneur. I built 2 companies, one called Group Small, which we sold to Groupon, then another one called Says.com, which we sold to Catch a Group.
So, okay, let's go direct to the question. Like, when did you start Group Small, and why?
Okay, so now Group Small, okay, we'll go a little bit further back. Now, Says.com was actually first before Group Small, even though Group Small kind of made headlines first. When Joel, my co-founder and business partner, so Joel Neo and myself, we met at a conference actually, you know, a long time ago. And we decided to start actually a survey panel business. He had this events company, and he did this youth festivals. So he had this big database like of people. So he asked me, he said, how can I monetize this database in a digital way? You know, his observations were that most entrepreneurs who make money when they're younger are all involved in tech. So he says, I don't want to be old and rich. You know, I'll be young and rich, right? So can you help me? And at the time when I was meeting with Joel, he didn't use Gmail. I judged him about it. I'm like, what? You don't use Gmail? He was on Microsoft Outlook and shit, right? So he was using Internet Explorer and everything. So I kind of had this perception that he's a total tech noob, right? So we started out with a panel business, getting advertisers to pay to ask questions to the database. 2 years, it was profitable, but it wasn't growing. So we're very frustrated. We eventually, I spoke to one of my clients, communications director at Nestle, and I said, you're already paying me for research, right? How can I make more money from you, right? And he said that, okay, Khailee, my research budget is like this. My advertising budget is like that. Can you help me? So with advertising. So I started off by getting the survey database, paying them to share sponsored content. So that's how the core of Says.com business first began. Now, after we launched that, the Says.com business started to make, it made the first million ringgit, which was about $300,000 worth of revenue in the first 6 months. By the end of the year, we had 70 of Malaysia's largest advertisers, repeat customers coming in. But the thing we noticed was that the advertisers are getting a lot of conversions on all of that traffic. But we thought that we could be our own advertiser too, that we could benefit from all that high quality traffic that we're generating. So Joe and I said, okay, what can we launch for ourselves? And at the time, group buying was the big trend at the time.
So you copied
it straight out. We sat down and opened up Groupon's website, and then a few of us, it was like 3 of us at the time, were refreshing the screen, trying to, like, you know, seeing what we should steal and what we should whatnot. And they were split testing their landing pages. So we got in a big argument because Groupon split tested their whole funnel at the time. So I'm like, hey, they signed up for the email address first, you know, and then after that they chose state. And no. They helped you choose your state first. And so we were arguing with each other, but they were actually split testing all that crap. But so we copied it. We built that out in 2 weeks. We launched the site. Within 3 months, we used the Sales.com traffic and all that stuff to grow it into the number 2 e-commerce player in the country. Then we got a customer support email from Groupon headquarters asking to get on the call. We thought it was like a scam or whatever. And but after taking that call, 2 weeks after that, the deal was done.
Okay, so how from start to end, like for Group Small, like how long does it take? How long did it take to start the company and then to sell the company? About 3 months, right?
Yeah. 2 weeks of launching the site, 3 months of building it up, and then 2 weeks of negotiation, and then the deal was done.
Okay, so I think this is like a really good learning point back to like Says.com. So you were working on this business for like 2 years, And then you realize that, oh shit, like this, like basically no money, right? Because like you mentioned that the survey.
Oh, actually no, the survey one had no money.
Yeah, the survey one
Yeah.
has no money, correct? And then you chase after like the advertising budget.
Yes.
So it took you 2 years, 2 freaking years,
Yes.
to basically figure out like,
Yes.
I would say like market size, right? The
Yes.
potential earnings.
Yes.
So what is like the lesson learned behind that? Like what would you advise for like new entrepreneurs here?
Oh, dude, that's something I take. I kind of regret it took 2 years to figure that out. You know, kind of. So what I do with a lot of entrepreneurs today when they share with me their idea, is we just do a lot of back of the napkin market sizing. We literally take out a paper, if possible, and we start doing some basic market sizing. I'll give you an example. I met this entrepreneur at one conference, and he was telling me that he did bookings for badminton and futsal, just bookings for all of that stuff in Malaysia. So we started kind of, okay, how many futsal courts are there? How many badminton courts are there? How many bookings a week? We just made a universe of potential bookings he could get. I said, okay, let's say you took 30% of all these bookings. How much do you earn per booking? Oh, you took $1 per booking, $2 per booking. You start sizing it up. So you're going to bust your ass and get 30% of all bookings in this country, and then you end up with this business that only makes $100K a year. Like, is it really worth your time? So it's just very simple market sizing. And because of that, like, okay, maybe you don't want to do bookings for futsal and all. Maybe you want to do other countries. Okay, you put in 5 other countries. Okay, you make $1 million a year. Are you sure you want to bust your ass to create a company that only makes $1 million a year? Doesn't make sense. Today, that founder pivoted to go for the highest margin one, which is golf, right? And he's doing like, you know, and golf travelers, you get what you pay to acquire one golf customer. The golfer golfs all around the world, right? So he's doing just purely golf bookings everywhere else, right? And so that market sizing decision you can make in a few minutes on a piece of paper. You don't have to wait 2 years.
Okay, so like back to the group small story. So basically it took you 3 months to start and then to exit. Like, why did you even sell the company? Like, did you build a company to flip? Like, is that your intention?
So at the time, like, I actually, the funny thing was, like, I didn't want to do that because I had this ego about copying at the time. So Joel, he's kind of more pragmatic, right? He just says, look, it looks like you can make some money, right? We already have all of this traffic. The answer's more, why not? So I guess, so when we built it, we didn't expect it to be acquired or, you know, have any interest that soon. You know, it's more like an experiment. We're dabbling with an extra way to monetize what we already have. The thing about media, and as a media entrepreneur, you would know, is if we rely on advertisers, we grow as fast as their 8x. So the 8x every year doesn't grow 3x or 5x a year. You know, the total advertising spend grows only like X%, you know, 2-3%, 5%, 10%. Digital 8x claim to grow very quickly, but mostly because Google and Facebook is taking all that money, right? So a lot of like conventional, if you're taking digital budget elsewhere, it's a small peanut and it takes time to grow. So because I've got market sizing lessons already, you know, I already quickly plotted out, even though we took X% of digital budget by what, it wouldn't be that big of a business. So we would really need to either grow into new countries or launch other sources of revenue. That's why we did the Groupon thing. Now, what we quickly, when the reason, the question you asked was like, why did we choose to sell it? Now, when Groupon negotiated us at the time, the international side of Groupon was led by Rocket Internet. So this maybe some people know and some people don't know. Groupon US bought City Deal in Germany. City Deal is Rocket Internet's version of Groupon. And so they bought City Deal, and part of the deal was Oliver Samuel was to run Groupon International exclusively for X amount of months, 15 months or something like that. And he's supposed to launch the entire Groupon International. They just entrusted it to Rocket Internet. So while a lot of Silicon Valley kind of hates on Rocket Internet for copying, Groupon actually worked with Rocket Internet as the world's best copyists to actually copy it across the world. Now, Oliver Samuel is not known to be a very easy negotiator, someone to negotiate with. So it was more or less like either we buy you today or we will pump X amount of million into the country and somebody else and we will kill you, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing so the first thing Joel and I talked about, okay, do we want to fight with this guy? I don't know whether we're ready. So it was kind of like a question mark at the time. Second thing is that, hey, this is an experiment. You know, we get some cash off the table today. We've busted our ass for so many years. Really, you know, let's just take some money off the table. Like, okay, not so bad. Third question is this the best thing that we can build in our lives that we want to hold on to and grow it into a ginormous unicorn? The answer is no. You know, so based on thinking through those 3 things, we thought it was the right decision to sell. Now, in retrospect, actually, that experience of selling it, I gained so much more that is not even monetary. The kind of value that I got from what happened after the sale was worth much more than the sale itself.
How much did you sell?
So a lot of the Groupon acquisitions across.
Give me a number.
No, you can't, because like basically they didn't want any of the countries to negotiate with each other. They didn't want any of the countries to disclose to one another. So like till today, like there's very tight contract around that.
Above 1 million?
Let's just say it was overvalued lah.
Overvalued. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So, okay, good job. All right. So after you sell groups more and you went back to Sales.com, right? So. Yeah. And you mentioned that Sales.com, like the market size is not great, and then you basically like target the different market size. So when you go back to work on Sales.com, what are the few things that you basically fundamentally changed?
Yeah. Okay, so first off, like the old business, which had a crappy total addressable market of the survey panel business, that business was called Youth Says. Yeah, so it's very different. And the Sales.com name I only bought later. So the Youth Says business, we shut it down. Now, for Sales.com, your question was?
What do you change, like fundamentally, in the business to really make it grow?
Okay, so we had the same asset of having a database of people who we paid money to answer questions about survey. The only thing we changed is we still paid the money, but we're like, hey, could you share this on your Facebook or Twitter or on your blog? And so Nestle, for example, would give us some branded content, maybe about their new product launch. And we would craft like some messaging that makes it more social media friendly. We would go to our database and say, hey, if you guys were to share this content on Facebook and Twitter, we'll give you X amount of money, right? And so we could get up to 50,000 people sometimes sharing something, right? And things would immediately go viral. And at that point in time at Facebook, I mean, a lot of people didn't really fully understand viral at the time. Like this kind of viral thing was new at the time. So naturally, it was worth a lot of money to a lot of advertisers. When we eventually sold the business, it was making about $3 million US dollars in revenue, and it was doing about 38% net profit at the time. So it's kind of like a big cash cow business very quickly. In 2 years, it built up like that.
Okay, so you spent about 3 years building Sales.com, right?
You've Says 2 years, Sales.com.
Basically in total about 3 years, right?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I really want to find out, like, in these 3 years, like, what is the lowest like point when you're building Sales.com?
Well, the first 2 years were very rough, I guess. The first 2 years were rough. There were a couple of points which were very, very low. But actually, when I look back at that, right, I think I was in a state of dumb innocence as well when I was building companies. Like at the time, like startups weren't a cool thing. They weren't a lot. I mean, you just started Penn Olsen in 2009. I remember I was like, wow, why this guy? His name Penn Olsen. I see quite low. Then look, no lah, his name is Willis. You know what I mean? So I was, so I think back in the days, there's only so few of us, right?
Yes,
and like some little things going on. So it wasn't really like a big thing or a cool thing. So I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So the 2 years when I was building up that panel business, right? Although some would say today that I was like struggling in a tough state, but I was in this innocent sense of wonder that everything is going to work out and everything is going to be fine. So I think when I look back, I was actually quite happy just innocently building businesses. Today, I think working with a lot of founders, there's a lot more things that people know, right? What they should do. Oh, seed stage, Series A, Series B, Series C. Even Joe and myself for fundraising, we didn't know where to find VCs. There's no tech list, there's no anywhere to dig out, right?
Oh, thanks for the plug.
Yeah.
But you're not answering my question. So, like, what is your lowest point?
Okay. Well done, bro. The lowest of the lowest. Okay, let me think.
Let me help you, like.
Okay, I'll tell you about lowest, right?
Okay, come, go for it.
Okay, I'll tell you about lowest. Now, when one of my staff, back then when I would have a key staff choose to leave the company, I would get incredibly, incredibly sad. Then after a while, it was okay, kind of you grow up as a person and you get less emo about things, right? But yeah, so like one of the key staff, we had a lunch together, and so we started talking about the business and where it's going, and so she's kind of pivoting around her own career. She came in and she did everything with the company, and she was really loyal supporter. So when she talked about how she wanted to plan to go to different to maybe try something else, right? And she essentially didn't believe in the company we were trying to build, right? So we had a philosophical debate about the direction of the company. That's why I wanted to be supportive, say, okay, what are you going to do next? Oh, you want to do this? Okay, and I helped her out, introduced her to a few people. Then I went back home, and then I just cried for about half an hour. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? So, so I think back then, like when my state is more fragile as a young entrepreneur, and I didn't know what I was doing, more easily shaken, So even like a staff leaving, that could be a low point. You know, but of course, like once I start growing more muscles as more strength as an entrepreneur, then those things matter a bit less. At some point of Sales.com, I'll tell you a story which is quite low. Actually, it's like incredibly low. So we were primarily getting monetizing by sharing things on Facebook, right? One day we woke up and Facebook didn't allow any of our links to even exist in Facebook. The entire business, all our clients were like, hey, what happened to our campaigns? And we also had this, by that time we've launched a news website, kind of like an early BuzzFeed before BuzzFeed kind of thing, to just let our members share things which are not like directly monetizable by clients. So all of the news, our traffic as online news was growing so fast. It was like catching up with all those big news sites. It was growing, and boom, suddenly gone. So woke up, my colleagues were all freaking out, right? And at that time, I've got a staff of 30 people, and they're like, shit, we don't exist in Facebook anymore. The whole business is just wiped out. So, I mean, of course, that sounds like a pretty possible low point, right? I bought a plane ticket to San Francisco. I emailed a bunch of friends, and then I couldn't wait, so I flew my ass to San Francisco, and I said, I'm just going to talk to people till I get to someone in Facebook. I sent some of my staff, okay, Facebook has a conference here in Korea. You fly over there, and you just network and get your ass to talk to somebody in Facebook. I sent somebody else. I just sent my staff all around the world, and we just went to try and get to our way to talk to people with Facebook. Now, at this point in time was where I realized how important network is. Although we had a local VC supporting us, right, a lot of the community didn't have a direct link to Facebook. And we were going through all the customer support and stuff, and there's not much response. So I had no network into Silicon Valley. There wasn't anyone I could call. So this is not just one low point. This was like one whole month of low point, right, where your entire business that you've been building is like almost wiped out. Now, I count myself incredibly fortunate. You know, I still believe in a very wonderful, magical world because good things happen to me all the time. What happened was that I went to the Valley, I just like walked around, talked to people. So I was a mentor I volunteered myself as a mentor at 500 startups, right? So I could go in there to meet more people as well. And that's actually how I got to know 500 startups, right? So I met a lot of people. Somebody invited me to a party. I was at a coat check at this party, and there's a long coat check. I was talking to this older, bald man in front of me. And I don't normally chat up bald older men, you know what I mean? It's just, I just felt I needed to talk to people. So I was talking to this dude. We had a great conversation. He invited me over for lunch. He was somebody like extremely senior in Facebook reporting to Zuck. So he looked into it, and there was some algorithmic changes to the way they're dealing with different types of content. And then, so they were figuring out how to filter different things in the news feed, you know, so he fixed it and everything was fine. So it was so serendipitous and so random. And I'll tell you that today, right, I cannot emphasize the importance of strength of network. Mu from Ugbi, he's my partner in 500 Tuk Tuks, the Thai fund. Google, a few days ago, actually removed Ugbi from the App Store. Same thing happened to me. It's like your business just doesn't exist overnight, right? So I popped the email to Dave McClure. Then 2 days later, it solved already, right? He connected someone in Google, then it was solved. He didn't have to take 1 month of going down into the valley and just talking to random, chatting up bald old men at the party, right, just to get his problem fixed, you know. So I think the network is really, really important. Yeah.
Okay, I think lesson learned, like just don't piss off Facebook and Google.
You know, the thing is interesting. Yeah, it is. Also, like your business model, I mean, a lot of it you can't help. I mean, they are such important platform companies these days. And if you rely most, like 80% of your traffic from search marketing, and then Google AdWords yanks your whole search marketing campaign, you're screwed. A lot of mobile apps today, all VCs funding these mobile apps, your primary source of new downloads and installs is Facebook cost per install ads, right? Then the moment you get yanked or something like that, right, then what happens then? But you get over it, you know? Just fly away, get your ass down somewhere and just get the job done.
So was there any point of time that Sales.com was nearing death? Like you almost ran out of money. Like tell me that story, and then like what did you do to like revive the company?
I think I'm very lucky about the money part because Youth says the panel business was actually profitable and it was making me and Joel enough money, but it wasn't growing fast, and then we just got really frustrated it was growing. Then when we pivoted to Sales.com, it made a ton of money. Our VCs, we raised one round of funding a couple of months before Sales.com, and we didn't spend any of the money that we raised because we very quickly became so profitable that we were more challenged by how do we reuse our profits to grow more. So that was the challenge at the time. We're dabbling with new products, we're dabbling with new markets, you know, so we never ran out of money. It's just a really good cash business.
Okay, so you're very rich. So when you decide to like sell the company, right? Like why? Like since it's making like very good revenue, very good profits. Like why the hell do you even want to sell the company?
Yeah, so media, okay, so media, I'll tell you, I mean, as you know, right, about media, right? We needed to go into new...
Okay, thanks for bashing our business. Go for it.
I mean, it has its kind of challenges, right? And at the time, the news business, so we had the news part, and then we had that pay-for-performance social media part of Sales.com. The news part was picking up very strong, but it was Malaysian news. It was very Malaysia kind of business. And I wanted to launch in new countries, but we needed much more money to go into these new countries, more than all the savings and all the profits that we had. So I was considering fundraising. I talked to a couple of VCs, right, and I was looking at valuations. And then I spoke to Patrick Grove of Catcher Group, and we talked about what else we could do with it. I was, at the time, observing how he merged a lot of businesses, all the different property businesses together to do iProperty, merged a lot of car classifieds to do iCar, and then he did with group buying for iBuy. I mean, 3 companies, $1.5 billion of market cap. I mean, it's a kind of a mix views on what Patrick Grove and Catcher Group has done, you know, Patrick being Patrick, right? So there's a lot of, but however, $1.5 billion market cap, I mean, that's real market cap in 6 years.
Why did you sell?
So I sold it to him because I wanted him to do the same thing for media, right? And then so I didn't want to take more cash off the table at the time. I felt that like Malaysia is not a very expensive place to live, you know what I mean? So I wanted to be able to build up a regional story by mergers and acquisitions. I wanted to do that as a function of getting there faster versus raising money and launching new countries. I wanted to see if I could do it faster through mergers and acquisitions. That's why I said, Patrick, you take this company. I won't take so much cash. I'll take some cash, right? We'll keep some in stock, right? And then let's see how fast we can grow this via mergers and acquisitions.
But the things that like, I mean, okay, you're kind of like avoiding my question. Because like when you sell the company, like your motivation wasn't, I mean, you have a motivation of like making Sales.com like really regional and big, right?
Yes.
But your motivation as an entrepreneur, like are you even interested to build that yourself? Because now you're in like 500 startups, investing in companies. So I really want to find out, like back in 2013, right? So when you sell the company, do you have any motivation to run a company? I
think there were some operational aspects which were not that fun. Media business and media sales is not fun for me. Like I've done it hardcore for 2 years, right? It is a stressful job, and it's a kind of stress that some people enjoy, but some people don't. I think building new products, strategy, kind of like working through strategic issues is something that I have grown to like a lot. Right, and there were a lot of the media sales efforts and stuff, and every single new country we go into, we have to go through the same kind of a curve, and I thought that I wanted to find a way to create like a shortcut to make it happen. At that time, I was obsessed with the topic of getting things to grow fast and finding different ways to do it. I think there are many ways to grow a business, and then I was trying to discover more new ways. After we sold the group small business to Groupon, I learned like 100 new ways to grow things fast. Rocket Internet, for all you can say about them, right, they are strong in certain types of execution, and they have a very different way of thinking about expansion. So I learned a lot from there, and also vicariously through Joel's efforts in Groupon Asia as well. And I wanted to learn how Patrick Grove did all of the stuff that he was doing, all the financial engineering and how do merger and acquisition work, how to use a public company to use shares to acquire companies. I wanted to learn a lot of that stuff. So I think it's, again, driven by learning, number one. Number two is driven by trying to avoid building teams of media salespeople and waiting for advertiser money to flow in for each of these new company. So yeah, it's primarily driven by that.
So this is really interesting because like you came to a point that you decide that fuck this business, right? And
not really. I chose to I consciously decided, right, in all the negotiations, I could have taken all cash. But I said, you know what, I'll take the majority in stock.
Oh, regardless, you still sell the business, right? So in some part of basically your mind and your heart, right? You basically feel like, oh, like this business is not great, and then you want to sell. Is that true? Like,
no, I think you're putting words in my mouth. Actually,
okay, yeah, kind of. But thanks for highlighting that. So I think that's
there's been a bit of that lately. So I just wanted to point it out.
So what I'm trying to say is that like this is an interesting point because like at which stage you start to feel like this company is not for you, and you really want to pass the baton to someone else that can really help to grow the company. Like at what point and could you like describe at which point, and how do you basically find out?
I mean, maybe if you, I don't know about yourself, right? But when I reflect on a lot of decisions I made, it's not something you make at one point. Oh, you wake up one morning and you decide this and that. You know, it's not like that. It's something you consider, you evaluate options, you think about it, you reflect on different perspectives. And I'll tell you straight up that when I look back on these things, there's always ways you can say that, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. I'll give you an example, right? Shortly after I transitioned the whole thing into Catcher Group, Judith, the news editor, took over all of the product stuff, and the traffic of Sales.com as a news site just started to explode. And Sales.com kept doing better and better. Today, they grew 92% in terms of traffic for online news versus last year. Every other online news site in Malaysia had negative growth or one single-digit growth. And so now they're number 4. You give it another 6 months, they're in top 3 already. You give it another 12, 24 months at the same or at least tapered down growth rate, it could be number 1 kind of online news site. So I look back on it, crap, if I held on to it for another 12 months, it's going to be worth so much more. I got other kind of acquisition offers after the Catcher merger, different kind of acquisition offers, and it was worth much more than I sold. So I look back on it, it's like, crap, I could have made maybe, a few extra $1 million, or if I would have waited a little bit more.
Okay.
So I can look back and regret on all of these things, but I think what's more important is what do we do now? What do we do today? And the business is still growing, it's still incredibly profitable. And what Patrick and Patrick's management team has done with it is they expanded 8Share and the whole sales business into 4 other new countries already. So I think that's still the beginning of a journey over there.
Okay, thanks. Like, personal question, how young are you?
Good question. I just turned 31 2-3 weeks ago.
Okay, last question. Like, do you have a girlfriend?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so like across your entrepreneurial journey, right? How do you handle like your girlfriend and your business?
Oh man, that's probably a real tough one, dude. Like I think anyone who travels a shit ton will tell you what started off as like a kind of more stay in Malaysia kind of relationship evolved quickly into a long distance relationship. So
and that's like a lot of pain point for a lot of founders in Southeast Asia, right? You get to travel a lot and everything. So how do you like manage like your relationship and your business?
Well, at some point you just got to prioritize. You got to say, okay, who's
more important, your girlfriend or your business?
Mostly my business. I'll tell you upfront, mostly my business actually. So,
Good, you heard that.
Yeah, no, I told her before we dated, I said that, look, I'm a mission-focused person. This is number 1. Everything else is in service to what I need to do. So it's about managing expectations. So, I mean, it sounds like a horrible thing, but actually it works pretty okay. Like we find ways to prioritize, and we make time, and I try to do more Skype instead of flying around. But I still make time to fly to Tech in Asia, right? So, and talk to you. So.
All right, thanks a lot, Khailee.
No problem. All right, thank you, Willis.